This is Vlad Tepes blog for rarefoundation.com, and we are speaking with the owner, director, operator of the UK website Fahrenheit 211.
Fahrenheit211.net.
Owner operator of Fahrenheit211.net. Now, I haven't read the site for a while, I confess, but I used to read it faithfully, and as I recall, it was a rational and truthful Islam-critical and leftist-critical website. Have I got that right?
That's correct. I always try and make a difference, to tell the difference between a Muslim individual and the ideology of Islam, because they are two different things. There's a lot of people in Islam who just go along with it, or are frightened to get out, or know nothing about it. So, but the problem is, as I see it, is the ideology itself.
Right, which is, of course, what motivates people to act. What people believe is what makes them act a certain way. I think that's fair and reasonable.
That's the same thing. The same thing with communism and fascism. It's the ideology that makes people act the way they do.
Yes, although I think that communism and fascism is a distinction without a difference. But okay. So now the other day, what date was it when? What looked like a fairly
when I was arrested?
Yes.
Yes, it was the 22nd of October.
22nd of October, 2019. So just like a couple of weeks ago, really, right? Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, late October, yeah.
Yeah, and so two or 3 weeks ago, and it was during the early morning, I believe. The rumors I've heard is that
right.
Pardon me?
Yes, you were saying?
Well, the rumors I've heard is that all of the people who raided your home, and from the look of it, there was about 5 or 6 in the back and another 5 or 6 in front, at least. Let's say there was 10 to a dozen uniformed officers, plus a couple of people that weren't in uniform. I guess the political officers, the Soviets would have called them. That
there were 6 officers in all. There was one Met officer in plain clothes.
Right.
That's that PC Chowdhury, who features quite heavily on the videos.
Right.
He was accompanied by a retired Met officer who was acting as his civilian assistant, and there were 4 officers from my local force, West Mercia.
I see.
There were two of them in the front, 2 in the back garden. So there's a six in all. So
yes, it's a lot.
But it looks like a lot more. Yeah.
It's a lot of people to arrest a blogger who's obviously no threat to anybody, right? I mean, it sure smacks of it was a political arrest. There's something just terribly wrong with all this. So So have they formally charged you with anything, or did they say why they arrested you?
They told me while I was arrested, they said that I had to racially and religiously harassed a gentleman by the name of Fiaz Mughal of the Tel Mummer organisation, and they arrested me under the Racial and Religious Hatred Act and under the Communications Act. I was taken down the police station, and when it came to the questioning, it turned out that what was happening is both Fiaz Mughal and the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, were objecting to some memes that were on my site, mocking them. Fiaz Mughal was very upset about the one that called him a Tachyatron, a fake Pokemon. So basically, I was arrested for memes, and also I've done a lot of investigation into the Tel Mummer organisation, and although I believe that groups have a perfect right to monitor what they see as hate crimes, or they see as crimes aimed against a certain group, I'm not quite sure those groups should get the amount of public money as Tel Mummer get.
Well, not only that, but you have to wonder whether or not they get to invent laws as they want them because of hurt feelings. This fellow Mughal you mentioned that you were publishing memes of, is he a public figure in any way? How's he connected to Sadiq Khan?
Yes, he's such a public figure that when he went and complained to Google to try and have my site delisted on Google, Google's told him, sorry, but you're a public figure, we're not going to do that.
Wow. So even Google found on your site, and Google is notoriously and demonstrably leftist. and and against
Mm,
our whole perspective. So Google even
yeah.
found that this guy was a public figure, and therefore rational Western law allows him to be mocked. Okay, so and what is his
Yeah.
position, this mogul guy? What's his official position?
Right. I'm not quite sure what he's doing at the moment, apart from leading a group called Faith Matters, which is an interfaith group.
Oh,
Um, before we get into things, there's some things he says that he's which are right. I believe are right. I believe it is right for Muslim communities to give up their terrorists to the police. He said that, and with that I agree with him. So it's not an irrational dislike of the man. It's I just dislike his organisations and the influences they've got. But he's the head of Faith Matters, and he also formed an Islamophobia group anti-Islamophobia group called Tell Mama, which he supposedly monitors um, Islamophobic incidents. Now, it first came to my attention in 2013, just after the Islamic murder of Lee Rigby in Woolwich. I noticed that this man was on the television quite a bit, and he was saying, "Oh, there's been a massive spike in Islamophobia," but it was only when journalists investigated from the Daily Telegraph that they found out that most of these incidents were people saying nasty stuff about Islam online. The number of people actually attacking Muslims physically was tiny, which is what you would expect from Britain.
well, it's also worth mentioning that Tel Mama was busted for taking vast amounts of public funds and then inventing Islamophobia incidents. And they were caught absolutely making up stuff out of whole cloth. And I forget who was the head of the organization at that time, but he was they did a token thing where I think they had to pay back this government money, but they paid it back out of more government money. I think it made no difference. But Tell Mama, it's on record that they falsified in order to boost the statistics of Islamophobic events. So,
Mm.
this is not a healthy, classically liberal organization that in any way, shape, or form is trying to make society better. These are people who have an agenda to
No,
advance.
no.
Yes, just so we're all clear on that. So have now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what they were doing, they were counting things that should not count as incidents, which is people saying nasty but often true things about the ideology of Islam as incidents, like we're giving the impression that people were being punched in the face because of the Rigby murder, but it wasn't. People just venting online, and they counted things in the wrong column.
So have they given you? Have they? I think in Canada we call it an arraignment, where they actually formally read the charges at you in a court. Have they arraigned you, or is there still charges pending? Where is this thing
No,
at?
no. Right, where it is at the moment is I was arrested, taken to my local police station, questioned, to which I answered all questions, no comment, or nearly all questions, no comment. Um, and they basically bailed me on unconditional bail while the investigation goes on. Um, so I've not been charged with anything. I've not gone to a magistrate's court. I've not been arraigned. There's not been an indictment written. I've just been released under unconditional bail with a warning not to interfere with the case at all.
I don't understand. What do you mean not interfere with the case? You mean not get a lawyer, not defend
No, no,
yourself?
no, 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 not contact the complainants, basically.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay. So essentially, this whole thing boils down to a restraining order.
It's not even that. It's not even that. That's just an unconditional bail. There's not even that there. A restraining order would have to be issued by a court in some way. Nothing's been issued.
So there are no charges.
No charges as of yet.
Right. So, but are you getting the sense that if you don't publish anything more about this guy, this whole thing goes away or just stays in suspension forever? In other words, was this the government using its enforcement division, namely the police and whatever associated people, in order to stop somebody who's critical of a public figure in politics? Is that what we saw?
No, I think what it is that, pardon me, I'm very sorry. We both my wife and I have both got bad colds and throat infections at the moment. Um, it was a complaint was made, and the Cairns Hate Speech and Hate Crime Unit was being pushed to act on it by Mughal. Now Mughal has very good connections with police forces, and he also has very good connections with the Crown Prosecution Service, which is the prosecuting agency in the United Kingdom. So whether this would whether this had a bearing on whether this case was acted on or not is difficult to tell at this point. But I was surprised not to be charged at that point. If they had enough, they would have done that then. But I've just been released on unconditional bail. But what you need to realise in Britain is that with a lot of these hate speech cases, the process of the prosecution, the process of the case, becomes part of the punishment. With a lot of these hate speech cases, people could be left hanging on for years before the case ever comes to court, and people's lives basically go on hold while the police twiddle their thumbs or whatever they're doing. It's very similar to the Don't Count, Don't Kill a case, where the police went out looking for a complainant, and the case dragged on for 2 years. So, and if you look on a site like Ambush Predator, which monitors a lot of these sort of processes, the punishment cases, you'll see quite a few on there where the actual legal process is the punishment. Even if you're found guilty at the end of the day, found not guilty at the end of the day, you're still punished by the amount of intrusion that the case has taken in your life.
Yeah, the Canada has something called the, ironically named the Canadian Human Rights Commissions. I think every province has them. It's exactly the same thing, except that they don't have to give the accused the normal rights of a democratic society. You don't have a right to a lawyer. You don't. I mean, the truth doesn't matter. And the actual court itself, I believe, splits the amount of money which they fine you, and they always find their defendants guilty, and they split it with, except for I think twice. Mark Stein and Ezra Levant, because they exposed it to daylight, and more recently, the man who disguised himself lightly as a woman in the Wax My Genitals, and because he
lost his case.
Pardon me.
I think he lost his case, most of it, didn't he?
Well, only the ones where. What happened is a law firm that's actually stepped in, and the law firm and the rebel media exposed it to daylight, right? So what happened is that this guy Yanev lost it only to the people that the law firm could find. But now I have to check this fact, but I had read, and I have to check it, but I have read that the law firm that represented the defendants, namely the people that ran these waxing salons and spas, that the Human Rights Commission would not give them the names of the other defendants that Yanev had gone after. So the ones they could find all won against Yanev. But I believe Yanev had taken money from other ones where it was, anyway, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And it's the same process. We're seeing it all over the Western world. So, yes, we understand in Canada the process is the punishment. And here it's also the punishment. So basically, let me just summarize it if I can. They arrested you, and they even broke down your door with a battering ram, which was really, that's a pretty aggressive move. I don't think they would do that here to people even who committed robberies and so on. So they busted down your door with a battering ram. It was at least 5 officers. I saw some around back, some around front. It appeared that the guys in front had green uniforms, which I think was a camera error because the ones in the back had the proper blue Met uniforms. But in any case,
That's what it was, yeah.
What's that? Was it the camera?
So there was a camera error, and also PC Chowdhury and his civilian assistant, the grey-haired guy, were both in civvies, in plain clothes.
Yes, but there were lots of uniforms in the front as well, according to the video, right? So,
oh yeah, there was some up by the van, yeah.
Yeah. So all these guys broke your door down and swarmed into your house and arrested you for posting memes which were offensive to a friend of the mayor, Sadiq Khan's, who was another Muslim fellow that's deeply connected to Tel Mama. Have I got that right so far? Okay.
I'm not quite sure about Khan's connection to Tell Mama,
Not
but
Khan's, not Khan's, but Khan's
Piers Moogle,
associate. The other fella. What was his name again?
Piers Moogle. Piers Moogle has very good contacts and within the police and the Crown Prosecution Service.
I see. I see. And the fellow who showed up that led the police, Chowdhury, what's who exactly is he and what's his role? And is he connected to the municipal government in some way?
He's connected to the the Mayor of London's hate speech and hate crime unit. I came across him a few weeks prior to the arrest. I received a very strange email from PC Chowdhury saying, "We want you to speak to us regarding a crime." And I thought, this is unusual. Normally, when the police want to know something, they'll say what it's about. Right? They'll tell you what it's about. He wouldn't. And so I wrote him back a sarcastic reply saying, "Unless you tell me what this is about, I'm not going to come and speak to you. You can't speak to me in my house or anywhere else." I suspect that, yeah, I suspect that you're going to drag some poor bleeder through the mill over a hate speech issue, and I would never ever cooperate with the police on that.
Good for
And
you.
that's basically what I told him. Okay, I was a bit sarcastic in the way I said it, but and I'll email you the article that I did send to Chowdhury a few weeks ago later on. But I do not talk to police about hate speech crimes because I don't believe hate speech laws should exist. I think they're dangerous in a free society.
Yes, well, you're absolutely right. Hate speech laws is just an excuse for government to selectively enforce what's in the government's policy's interest and apply hate speech against anybody that's interfering with those interests. It's obviously just a cover for blasphemy laws for Islam and also for any attempt to stop the hypersexualization of children becomes transphobic. I mean, if you don't agree with global warming because the science doesn't support it, then you are a climate denier, which makes you equivalent to a Holocaust denier, and now you're guilty of hate speech. So clearly, the whole hate speech thing is it's a political mace. It's a mace club. Wow, it's just horrifying.
When the hate speech laws first come out, I could see a reasoning in not inciting credible violence against people, but it's gone far beyond that now, and it's now criticism or mocking or stuff like that, or saying I don't want to shop in that particular shop because or whatever. It's become so broad, and it's been used to make up law on the hoof by the police, talking about making misogyny a hate crime. Now, I dislike misogyny as the next person, but it's not a crime. It's an attitude. It's a feeling, not a crime. This is the unfortunately in Britain we don't have a guarantee of freedom of speech like our American cousins do. So it's very easy for the government to criminalise certain speech. Okay, maybe in wartime it's needed, but in peacetime I don't think it is.
You're absolutely right about that. Fahrenheit 211, I want to thank you for taking the time out to explain this to us. It's a very, very important story. We will be watching it closely. Will you get in touch with us and let us know if there's any updates or events, any more communication from the authorities about this? Because we would like to make sure that people are aware of this story.
Of course I will, and thank you very much for highlighting my case, because what has happened to me has happened to thousands of other Britons as well. In 2016 alone, there were 3,300 Britons who are arrested or dragged through the courts on the basis of what are little more than hurty words. And that is not a healthy situation for my country to be in.
Actually, I think that Tim Burton spent 6 weeks in prison for teasing the head of Tell Mama. I forget his name now. But he spent 6 weeks in prison for teasing Tell Mama an email.
Exactly, yeah.
It was just, well, it's, I frankly have started calling England Airstrip 1, from 1980.
Yeah.
And I essentially think that's where it is. So once again, thank you. We will stay in touch